Good afternoon. A lovely sunny day today in Melbourne. I thought that I would start letting you know what we're doing with regard to philosophy. Our philosophy classes started out of our yoga teacher training program. It was an experiment in the beginning because I am not a trained philosophy teacher. Although I think that if you do philosophy, if you work on your teacher training philosophy, then you have a lot to understand and talk about with regards to philosophy. This was expanded to take in Innisfree, where I work as a yoga teacher and chaplain. Chaplain implies that we are in charge of the spiritual aspect of our students, and I have enjoyed enormously that part of my work with Innisfree. And philosophy, or just chatting about life, seems to be very accepted there. The aspect that I'd like to talk to you today is all about having an instruction manual for you. This may not seem a terribly radical idea, or maybe it does. I recently bought a piece of furniture from IKEA. I'm sure you've duplicated that many times over. The item, a bed, in many parts, came with an instruction sheet written almost in English. The bits that weren't in English were quite important. Well, they were in English, but I wasn't sure whose English it was. It certainly wasn't mine. There's two parts to an instruction sheet or manual. One part is spatially oriented, and that tells you what to do, and there is another part that's oriented in time, which tells you how to do it and how to use the article once it's put together. Imagine how fantastic it would be if we had such a manual for ourselves. With the instruction manual or instruction sheet that I had from IKEA, and you might have had, it sort of wasn't enough. Because even if you could see the part and had an idea where it went, and there's a hole on this one and a hole on that piece, what do you use to put it together? You need tools. And I guess that yoga is that in our life. It's the tool that brings everything together and shows us how we can use this thing called a body efficiently, effectively, and without it jarring to a halt. When it does, we have to say, what have we done? How have we put this piece of furniture together? Have we put it together properly? Or have we used a hammer to bang it together when we couldn't find the right tool? This happens, doesn't it? For us humans, there should be an operator's manual, but as you know, there isn't. We need to have an understanding of our parts. We need to know how they all fit together. We need to know how they work. And we need to know how we can use this thing called a body for a prosperous and creative life. The problem with the human is that the parts aren't all visible. With an IKEA thing, the parts are visible, and even that doesn't help sometimes. But with a human being, the parts aren't visible. The most important ones you can't see. They're not visible with the physical, and identification is difficult. We can observe the results of the process, what we do right and we do wrong, even though we can't see them. And the closer we get to this thing called the machine, and the more time we spend examining how it works on all levels, the more effectively it will work, and the more chance we have of getting a good result. Most of the things we do to understand the body are from the inside looking out. And any observation done in this way hasn't got terribly much possibility of success. Trying to understand behaviour, for instance, from this perspective isn't terribly helpful. Excuse me, I'll turn my page. People don't often talk about the process because they don't have names for what is going on. They can look at an anatomy chart, but they really don't have names for what is happening. It's as if you were, it's the difference between being a passenger and a driver in a car. You know that if you are continuously driving from point A to point B in your car, sometimes you won't even notice how you got to where you ended up. You'll think, how have I gotten here? You're so used to driving the car that the actual process of getting in, turning on, doing this, doing that, looking in the rear vision mirror, it's all automatic. Accidents happen that way, but we don't think about it. We become an extension to the car, but we don't think about where we're going, apart from vaguely. I'm sure, on the other hand, you've been a passenger in a car. What a different perspective that is. The passenger sees things the driver may not have seen at all. And you'll say, oh, look at that building. He'll say, what building? Oh, that new one. Oh, I didn't see that. Who's knocked down that building? Oh, I didn't notice that. So the perspective between the driver and the passenger, although they're in the same vehicle, is quite different. And in your body it's the same. Do you want to be one of those drivers who never notices anything, or do you want to be a passenger who sees many things? As the driver, you can guess your way to the destination, but you may miss the signposts, and you may pass the thing you want and think, oh, how did I miss that exit ramp? But you did. You weren't thinking, you were just driving on instinct. Sometimes we get so caught up in what we're doing, so frustrated with trying to drive this vehicle and not really wanting to experience, that we take things to stop the experience. People who are addicted to drinking, to drugs, to alcohol, to buying dresses, to hoarding. It's all an anesthetic. It's to stop us thinking. We don't want to experience where we are. And we don't know how to change the experience because we haven't got the instruction book. And a lot of people think if you're moulded a certain way, you'll think a certain way. I remember when Kelly, my daughter, was small, she changed school a few times, and I was of the view that yes, her headmaster or mistress should know about her, but she should also have an idea about the school. If she didn't like the way they taught, even at a young age, she wasn't going to like the school. And for me that was important, that she had a say. So before she went to meet the new headmaster or mistress, we would sit down and we'd talk about what things you'd need to know about a school if you wanted to be part of that community. Perhaps many adults should do that with jobs or women or men or schools, whatever. What do you want out of that community? What do you want out of that experience? If you don't know what you want out of the experience, you're never going to get it. Some headmistresses told us they were going to mould Kelly. Oh, end of interview. Kelly didn't want to be moulded. She knew she couldn't be moulded. She was an individual. You can't mould an individual. You can squash them, but you can't mould them. I didn't want to mould it either, frankly. She's difficult, but I like that. Independent people are difficult. I think that if you have an instruction booklet, you'll get it by looking inwards and taking time and not trying to force the bits together, and not by ignoring that there are bits, exploring the difficulties instead of just banging the bits together. With my IKEA experience, my bed, there was a headboard and a foot and 2 side rails, and I thought, throw away the instruction book, I know how to do this, and I put the headboard and the foot together using the rails, but I put the slats in first, saved time, looked easy. What I didn't understand, because I'd thrown the instructions away, was that you can't do it that way. Even with a hammer, I tried that, that didn't work either. So I had to take the bed to bits, rescue the instruction bed, and start again. This time without the hammer. And this time it worked. When you have an instruction book, the best thing to do is to read it. I always find that difficult. I don't like recipes, I don't like knitting patterns, and I certainly don't like instructions. And when the instructions come, you know, in batches of 20, it makes me apoplectic. I don't want something that I need to read 20 things in order to get it done. But sometimes you do. And this thing called the body, apart from having to love it, has a lot of instructions for the different bits you may want to use. You know what Nelson Mandela said, that we don't put ourselves, he didn't use these words, we don't use the instruction book and we don't get the things together because we're making excuses, because we don't want the thing to work. Do you want it to work? I want my body to work. I don't want to die. I'm not ready to die yet, and I don't have an underlying wish to do that, although I've met people who do. They go to yoga classes or therapy sessions for their husbands or their wives, or their daughter has said that, Mum, you should do this or should do that. No, it doesn't work like that. If you've got this instruction book, you have to read it and you've got to want it to work for you. Then it will work. Nelson Mandela said we're not scared of failing, we're scared of succeeding. Like with the bed. I could have said, oh, you know, I'm not really interested in the bed, I'll just put it in the hall, somebody else will do it, and the rest of you can sleep on the floor. And everyone would have said, oh, you know, that's Jane, she just can't put things together. And then I could have rested because they wouldn't have asked me the next time. See, I didn't want to succeed. But yes, that's not me. I wanted to succeed. I just had to learn to read the instruction book. And goodness me, life has banged me over the head with that many times and I still do the wrong thing. It's all about knowing how to use the energy you've been given and using it in a controlled way according to the instructions for good. And if you do that, and meditation is the key, of course, if you do that, then that is the way that you will get joy and fulfillment in your life. If you don't slow down, if you don't listen and go inwards for your instructions, life is going to be difficult. The universe will stop you. The universe eventually will say, come on, slow down. In my work as a hypnotherapist and past life regression therapist, I see this all the time. People don't want to listen or read the instruction book. They want to either hide from life or pretend they're in charge. Neither of these things are true. Read the instruction book. The instruction book comes from head office. Head office knows what you're supposed to do. in this case the subconscious or superconscious. It knows what you're supposed to do. All you have to do is link in. You're not on your own. All you have to do is link in with the subconscious, the guy who is writing your instruction book, and you can get there. You can build a better body, a better mind, a better future, a better family, a better anything, if you'll just stop and say, okay, I'm ready to read the instruction book. I'll sit here till I've got it. Even Buddha had to do that. Took him 40 days. That's too big for me. How about 3 minutes? 3 minutes every day with the instruction book. That's all you need to do. Meditate for 3 minutes a day. Quieten the mind. Don't stop the mind, it won't stop. Quieten the mind and the body. 3 minutes a day, every day, until you fall in love with the process. When you fall in love with the process, you'll never stop. But don't start with 40 days first. It's like starting a 40-day fast when you don't know anything about fasting. Slowly, slowly read the instruction book. Don't use a hammer when you can't get through. And you will find your way to joy and happiness. So off you trot. Try your 3 minutes. And I will see you next time. Love and blessings from everybody at Yoga First. I hope to see you at my regression sessions or my yoga classes. Hop on to yogabeautiful.com, .millfruit.com, sorry, or janehopewilliams.com to find out more of what we do. I'd love to meet you sometime. Namaste.